Hey, what's up, Sphere One members and suppliers? It's so good to see you guys here again. This is our second event taking place here on Tuesday. And I want to thank all of you guys for taking time to pop in. It was great seeing everybody at our member meeting this morning. Thank you so much for being part of that. We hope you really got something out of that and some nuggets that can really help you drive your business. And suppliers, I mean, overwhelmingly responsive. We had so many suppliers on our supplier meeting earlier this morning. So thank you guys for just getting your teams together. And so this next session, and over the next probably about hour and 10 minutes or so, we are going to do what we're calling the inside scoop, right? And the fact that we couldn't be together, and we talked about it earlier today, it was a bummer, right? And there are things that we love to do when we're in person. But as we kind of put together the content and the ideas around this virtual meeting, you know, we wanted to create something a little extra special. You know, something that maybe we just didn't have the time or access to do in person. And that's what this session is all about. And I'm so excited. We have an amazing man that our CEO, Rob Moe, is going to be interviewing. But we're gonna do a one-on-one interview with Mr. Steve Richman from Milwaukee, right? And the next hour or so are all going to be about, you know, not necessarily Milwaukee, but really the principles that drive Steve as a leader. And I know you guys know who he is and you know the success he's had, but he's really gonna dive in deep on what it means to create culture, what it means to create a team, right? How to overcome obstacles in your life and in your head and all these different things. And so we appreciate all of you guys jumping in and being part of this inside scoop. We hope you walk away with some nuggets that can just help you be more relentless and help you be better in what you do on a day-to-day basis. And with that, I am so excited to turn it over to Rob and Steve to kick us off with the Inside Scoop. Rob and Steve.
You know, I've got to tell you, members and suppliers, today it's a true honor to be doing what it is that we're doing today. We've got a dear friend of mine into Sphere One that's a part of this session, if you will, the Inside Scoop. I want to take everybody on a little bit of a history lesson as to what Milwaukee Electric Tool back in the day, but now Milwaukee Tool means to Sphere One. One of our first suppliers, more than 2 decades within the organization, 2-time award winner recently for the Vendor of the Year for Sphere One. You've got a company and its employees that take care of more than 135 of our members, a significant supplier. With us today is Steve Richman, the leader of Milwaukee. Good friend, as I said, great friend to Sphere One. I'm not going to go into Steve's bio because his time is precious. We know your time is precious. Let's just put it this way. He's a badass, all right? And if you want to know more about Steve, Google his ass up and you'll find out as much as you need to know. Steve and I, because we've been friends for such a long time, we might cuss during this, so we'll try not to, but we want this to be free-flowing, exciting, and a lot of fun. So with that, Steve, good morning. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate you being here. Anything you want to say to our members before we get started?
You know, I thought you told me that I was not allowed to cuss at all, so I'm actually excited that I can open up a little bit and be my true self. That's awesome, Rob.
You need to. I didn't want you to prepare anything for us with any cuss words in there because I wanted things to be spontaneous, you know, have a level of spontaneity to it. So if we do throw anything out there, we'll apologize in advance if we do happen to let something fly. So members, you know, suppliers, we apologize. But Steve, thanks again for being here, man. If you're good,
hey,
let's jump into it.
Thanks for having us. No question. Thanks for
awesome.
Allowing us the opportunity to be able to be with you today.
Well, and again, man, we are so great. First time we've ever done this. So this is huge for us. You know, the scope of the interview today with you, Steve, is to tap into you, your experiences in the industry, and you taking some of those experiences in the industry and fostering those out to the folks that are taking this in to best help them be equipped moving forward. You know, with that said, you know, what qualities for sound leadership do you try to tap into or try to network into within Milwaukee?
Well, I think it all starts with 2 bookends that we like to say in Milwaukee. And those 2 bookends are people and culture. And the leaders that we have in our company, people like Jamie, who you're well aware of, and other leaders like Daryl and key leaders throughout the business, it all starts with the perspective that if you don't really believe people are the most important and the culture of the business and the company are the most important, then the opportunity for you to be able to lead won't happen. And it starts with that, Rob.
Well, that's an awesome answer, and to talk about company culture and speaking to that, I mean, since you came to Milwaukee, what have you put in place that helps the management team there at Milwaukee reach the heights under your leadership? I mean, how has this led to the solid foundation that you guys have put together?
Well, let's go back to what you said about leaders. We talked about people and culture. With that comes with a viewpoint to understand clearly that it's not about one person, it's not about 5 people, it's about a group of leaders throughout the company. And those group of leaders really understanding fundamentally that the easy part is saying yes to everything. The tough part is really saying, what are you going to say no to? What are you going to focus on? And then how are you going to adapt and adjust along the time and have the agility to be able to say, yes, we said that was the most important, but we've got a crisis over here. And how do we make sure we're dedicating resources and people and commitment to the long term as well as the short term initiatives that are there or the opportunities that are there? Most importantly, when we talk about that, you talk about culture and you talk about the change. It's got to be outside in. If we don't care about you, if we don't care about Sphere One, if we don't care about our distribution partners and we don't care about our users, and they aren't what everybody in the company focuses on, then there's no way in hell we can be successful. And there's no way we're going to have satisfaction that is required to be successful with you.
I understand that. Again, members and suppliers that could be taking kind of a page out of that book, that is right down the middle of the fairway. No pun intended on the golf analogy. But, Steve, over the years of knowing you and your team, I've heard over and over about Milwaukee's relentless pursuit of excellence. You guys are always seeking excellence. What does that mean to you and your team? I mean, is that just a catchphrase or what? Let's dive into that. What does that mean for you?
I think that comes back to culture as well. And our team recognizes that we are going to make mistakes. We are going to screw up. There is never a time that we can say we're perfect. Doesn't happen. I mean, right now, just look at this situation that we're in. We're in a global shortage of critical components. You hear about it every day with the Ford Motor Company or GM or Chrysler. You hear it from all of them. You hear it from Apple. Critical components are an issue for everybody globally. What does that mean? That means our teams, from our supply chain team to our manufacturing teams, clearly to our sales and JSS teams that are talking to you every single day, are coming with bad news. And our total company is at a point in time right now saying, we are letting you down. We're not delivering to our expectations of turn time of getting the product to you or of the ability to get unlimited supply to you. Some of these are out of our control, and the despair that so many of our people have because we're letting you down is a perspective from our people and our company that we always have to be improving, that we always have to take to the next level. And what are we going to do about it to be able to bring it forward?
Excellent. Well, with that said, and I think that segues into this question perfectly, with over the years, if you could go back and look at some of the decisions that have been made, is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that you would, want to go back and react differently to based on the history there with Milwaukee?
We collectively as a team and key leaders throughout the company, we believe that we've made a lot of good decisions along the way. And those decisions were the focus of people and culture. They have been the focus of outside in. Those decisions have laid a real strong foundation. That doesn't mean that we haven't made big screw ups. And, personal screw ups that I've made. I like one of the classics that I talk about was in the early years as we were all with a company. We were trying to get our cordless business off the ground. We were trying to get our focus on MEP off the ground. We were trying to build an accessory business and then a hand tool business and safety and storage. And all that was happening. And we made this decision, kind of handed to us, kind of told to do it, to start this test and measurement business up in Seattle. So this team came together. There were 20 people. This gentleman who I knew from a long time ago had come forward with this concept and this idea. So in our brilliant wisdom, and in my brilliant wisdom at that point in time, we said, okay, let's do it. So remember what I said, the tough decisions are to say what you're not going to do? Should have said no. Should have said no way. So here we are at a company trying to do all these different things, trying to focus on the user and focus on you. And what did we do? We had these 20 people trying to take on a $1 billion company called Fluke, dominant in the industry, let them stand by themselves in Seattle. Then as the leader needed to be replaced, we took a guy that was running our M12 and MAT business, Rick Ray, and I convinced him to move with his family out to Seattle to head up this team, stand alone, and try to develop a program and a product range and technology to compete with a dominant brand and a dominant portfolio of products in isolation. Now, looking back, that was just stupid. That was just absolute insanity. It was the definition of insanity. So when we talk about making the decisions on what you're not going to do and then the decisions you are going to do, that's a great example to me of a decision that I made, that I pushed forward, that the end result was we had to shut it down, and it should have never been made to begin with.
You know, that's an awesome answer. And, you know, you would think that a lot of these questions and answers you and I scripted here, because what you just shared, you know, it kind of segues into this next one, because it's got to do with scale, right? Milwaukee's huge, right? You guys being relentless in your seeking of excellence, your culture, et cetera, et cetera. If you had 3 members with you today, I mean, you've got tons of members that are taking this in right now, right? But if you had an LW Meyer, a Precision Tool, an Ace Tool in front of you right now, 3 polarizingly different members in their size and scope and the way they go to business, all right, in their respective markets, how could you help them scale their pursuit of being excellent? I mean, what I know there's no magic bullet, but what advice could you give to people like that, being that they're different sizes and shapes?
I think the first thing that we always say internally, and all the leaders in our company, and I'm fortunate that I get to work with a group of leaders from our sales team and our product development teams and our ops teams and the rest of the teams that I would go to war with any single day. And that's because we are willing to have vigorous debate with each other. We're willing to have conflict together. We're willing to be candid with each other to be able to drive what is necessary, not only for our business, but for our customers and our users and for you. What I would say to them was, what's your objective? And I'll use that as a real question. So there's companies that I've worked for, you've worked for in the past, companies that we see that their objective is they want to grow 4% per year. They want to do that through organic growth. They want to increase their profitability to the nth degree. That becomes their objective. There's other companies who believe that if you deliver the right solutions to the user and to the distribution partner, if you have the right foundation of people and culture, if your objective is that you're going to grow 20% per year to be able to accomplish that, like ours, then the end result is very, very different, but also the journey is very, very different. And what you need to think of and how you need to think of is very different. So I'm going to go back to what's the objective of each of those 3 different companies, I would say. And I would say, What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be focused on the mechanical trade or the electrical trade or the plumbing trade or the residential trade? Or do you want to say, and with that, if you said one of those trades, do you want to offer them every single solution of a portfolio of products to help them do their job easier and understand and partner with them? Or do you say that I want to skim each one of them, sell higher profit product, and I'm only concerned about not being a partner but growing 4% a year? Very, very different strategies. Right. So I come back to what's the objective, and what objective do you want to have to go forward? And for us, it's kind of difficult because we all have competitors. We have a lot of different competitors today. But our viewpoint is that if we do the right things for you, if we do the right things for our users, then we will continue to grow and flourish as long as we drive our culture and our people. If we don't do that, forget it. The wheels fall off the bus at the same point in time.
Again, that's a fantastic answer. I think in the way that you answered it and the way that you scaled it, I think whether it's those three distributors or anybody else that's taken this in, it certainly gives them the opportunity to define who it is they want to be and really define their uniqueness individually, and then decide how that's going to be defined moving forward. So great answer. Thank you so much. You know, Steve, obviously.
Rob, to your point, you know, we've had these conversations for many years around a fire pit or around drinking some tequila or whatever it may be. And
lots of tequila usually, but yeah.
Once in a while. Once in a while we may have a little too much, but that's okay, depending on what time of night it is. The opportunity is really understanding what you want to be. And for us, that what you want to be was, we decided that early. And we decided that, you know, it's going to be innovate or die. And that was our perspective. And we were the small little guys back then, right? I mean, we were the rounding error of any other player in our space in tools, accessories, non-existent in hand tools, non-existent in safety or storage. You know, we're a very, very different company today than we were back then. And we've changed and adapted. And the leaders that we have are really are empowered to be able to make those big decisions in the field, and the salespeople, in our marketing organizations across the board.
Understood. You know, with those decisions, for one to kind of move forward, to find uniqueness, there's going to be challenges that have arisen, right, or would arise for them. What would you say over the last 3 years? Obviously looking at the last year being extremely challenging, but looking at the last 3 years, what would be the three biggest challenges that you have faced?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge that's at the forefront right now is continuing to scale for growth. Number one, we believe as a business that growth is our friend. We believe that investment is our friend. The real challenge is how. How do you keep the culture alive as you add 1,200 new people to the company this year? And I'm not talking about people in the DC that we're adding on top of that. I'm talking about 1,200 salaried people in North America. How do you keep that culture alive as you're doing it? And that's a challenge, because you have people that have grown up, you know, in the culture as they built the business, dealt with the wars of us being the small little player with you versus where we are today. So how do you keep that culture alive where you're a little paranoid? You understand that if you're not listening, if you're not understanding where the pain points are, if you're not listening to your members and really seeking to understand what problems we're causing, from shipping, from service level, from repair, from anything that we're doing, service in the store during COVID, we're not going to be able to move forward. We're not going to be able to win. So scaling has clearly been our biggest problem. And part of that scaling has really turned into recruiting. How do we recruit the people that not only fit the culture, but how do we recruit the best and the brightest off of campuses throughout the United States, or people that work for other companies, and bring them in and get them to understand the culture and how they're going to adapt, and how that we need to be an outside-in company to continue to flourish and grow. How do we onboard them? And then how do we scale our training and development to understand that as you scale, it's that much more difficult to be able to drive that journey.
Right.
So that's clearly number one. That was clearly number one. Number two, challenges. This COVID time frame for all of us has just been such a unique challenge. I mean, none of us have ever experienced it before. What are we going to do? So we go into April of last year, and all of a sudden the world's shutting down. Our people are wondering, what does this mean? Do you really care about me? Are you going to communicate to me? Am I going to have a job? Are you going to lay me off? And how do you over-communicate at multiple different levels on a consistent basis? And how do you align everybody to understand what the risks and the opportunities are? And how do you make sure everyone has a voice?
Right.
And that was, and continues to be, one hell of a challenge. In the beginning, when we didn't know what was going to happen those first 3 months, and now as business is flourishing for you, all of your members, and almost everybody in our space today. And that challenge really ties back to communication and caring about people. And how are we going to ensure that the communication is consistent and it's clear? And some of that's one-on-one communication, some small groups, some is large communication vehicles to be able to make it happen. And that's clearly been our second biggest challenge over the past few years.
Gotcha. Steve, this next question is hugely loaded. And I know you and I, as we were prepping for this, you never ran from this question at all. And I truly appreciate you not running, but I want our members and people taking this in to really understand the dynamics of this next question. And that is, from your perspective, what advice could you give to members who are competing every day with the big boxes, the mega distributors, the internet, things like that? And again, I appreciate, you never ran from this. So I appreciate you answering this question, because coming from the supplier side of things, and a supplier like you guys, as many other suppliers are like you guys, are all dealing in these three arenas, if you will. So for you to try and share tidbits on how people can compete, I know that's a tough question, but I appreciate you answering that. What are your thoughts to that?
This is still a people-to-people business. That's what makes this business so unique. So I'd come back to the same piece and say, what's the objective of the business? What do you want the business? Do you want to be a growth business? Do you want to be a stable business? What are you going to do? And how are you going to look at your business? Same way that we have to look at our business versus our competitors in the space. And when I say that, it's, if our viewpoint is pretty clear, is that we can't worry every day about our competitors. What we can worry about is satisfying you and satisfying our users. And if we can do that and understand and seek to understand what the problems are, what the pain points are, how we can solve problems, how we can become a unique partner to solve those problems, then we win. And that's the same advice I would say in any business. And that's where we are today. Now, some of that leads to new opportunities, right? We call it at Milwaukee XRI, Excel to Invest, where we look at a new opportunity. And if you talk about Jamie and his team, or you talk about Daryl's Total Scope and his team, or Bill Hughes and the JSS team, or the teams that we have for each of the business units, right, one thing that they always do is say, what can we test? Okay. What can we look at as a new opportunity to be able to test? And that may be a different level of service. It may be a different way to approach the market. It may be more store service, maybe different merchandising and concept. How do we understand what we can test to continue to understand how we can grow and differentiate ourselves as a partner? And that's the second piece of advice I would really say, that we believe that model works. And then how do you scale that test to success?
Excellent answer. And I think, that leads to this question, because I think so many people today, forever, right? I've known you for 2.5 decades. I mean, we've been in this industry from field sales to lead management, throughout our
I was
careers.
10 then. I was 10 when we first met.
That meant that I was.
To you back then.
I know, and I had hair, but I think I was 7 at that time. But yeah, we got into it really early, right? But I think in today's climate, really the climate in this industry forever has all been growth. Is growth a necessity? I mean, do you feel from your standpoint, and again, scaling this to members and things like that, is growth truly a necessity? And what do you think people should be focusing on if it's not growth?
That's hard for me to answer. And the reason it's hard for me to answer is because we believe growth is a necessity. We believe, and the reason we believe it's a necessity because it provides the opportunity to be able to attract talent. Because if people want to work for you and they say, there's more opportunity, if I'm the best and the brightest, there's more opportunity for me to grow if I work for you. In new opportunities, in more responsibility, in how I change and adapt and grow. Growth allows us to be able to invest more and allows us to be able to invest in and scale up that scaling point in a significant way. Now, for Sphere One members, that's a choice, right? There's some members that are growing a lot, and they're growing a lot because they've gone from, I'm going to focus on residential to I'm going to focus on residential and mechanical, or I'm going to focus on total residential and remodeling, and I'm going to add on plumbing from a growth standpoint, which is a new opportunity. Now think about the people that work for you. Opportunity to grow, opportunity to advance their careers, opportunity to be able to make more money. And that's why we believe growth is essential. Opportunity to be able to say to the user, we can offer you everything you need. One-stop shop for your needs, your requirements. And this is what we can provide to you to partner with you. So we believe it's at multiple layers why growth is so important for future success. And growth to us doesn't mean doing it the easy way. And I say it that way. Growth, there's many companies that say they're going to start looking at a new business. So they're going to take all the people from their old business, they're going to have them be in their new business or their new segment, and they're going to stop dedicating resources to that old business. That's a great couple of years success, but long term it's going to kill the business. Right. So when we talk about growth, we talk about testing and then adding those necessary resources so you're maintaining and growing your current business as well as then scaling up to that new business. Very different thought process, different approach. And our teams do it extremely well. I don't do shit anymore. I just listen to their plans they're coming forward with, and they're the ones who are executing. They're the ones doing all the hard work.
Right. Well, and that, I think that's excellent with what you just said and how you closed that out and how the respect that you have had with your team. And, you've had the opportunity to lead several organizations in your career, right? And all of them have been successful. You've left a legacy at each of them, right? But Milwaukee's may probably be your greatest. And I think anybody that's been around you and seen the ascent of Milwaukee versus the other folks that you were engaged with prior, what differentiates the success which has been incredible success for Milwaukee from the others that you have led. What has been some of the separating factors, if you will, or that the differentiators, if you will, of that?
Well, on a personal level, I would say that I have to be real honest with myself and say I learned a lot along the way. And I was able to learn from mistakes and say, what did I do wrong? How did I lead? And how do I need to change? How do I need to adapt? And that's a big piece on the personal side. At the same time, the difference here is the people. I believe that we have the best people in this industry and in many other industries, and I'm fortunate to be able to work with the level of talent, commitment, passion, search for excellence that this team has. The viewpoint of never satisfied, always improving. This team beats themselves up more than any other team I've ever been around. And that's clearly a piece of it. The other piece is the mindset of growth. The mindset that says we're going to eliminate the bureaucracy. We're going to attempt to empower people. We're going to attempt to train and develop people. We're going to build a culture that if you don't fit the culture, you may be an excellent professional salesperson or marketeer or engineer, and you could go to work for another company and excel. But if you don't fit the culture, this isn't the right place for you. And that defining line is real important. The ability to eliminate that bureaucracy so we can make quick decisions, so we can move forward. The ability that Joe and Horst and Stefan on the board have allowed us to have to invest to a level that other companies don't invest. They'd rather go and acquire 5 other companies and show that as an uptick versus us allowing to continue to invest. And that's really unique. Very, very unique. That most other companies and most other people don't have the opportunity. Some of us say, and we were having this conversation as a big team recently, that people that are just joining now believe every company is like this. You know, you're going to add thousands of people every single year. You're going to be able to spend and invest in technology. You're going to be able to add manufacturing capacity quickly. And it's not that way, as we know. It's not always that way. You're going to be able to focus on distribution partners and users and try to listen and hear and seek to understand what those problems are and admit that there's a long way for you to improve and get better.
I think I've always, Steve, just really, as long as we've known each other, I've just always appreciated your candor, your level of being direct, but yet being professional. And I think the way that you just answered that last question was, it was inspiring for me to hear that because there was humility in it and it was ego driven at the same time, which I think in order to be a leader like you, there's got to be some sense, some level of having an ego, not just for you, but for what it is that you as a company represents. And I just really appreciate that answer because I think for those that are paying attention, if you weren't paying attention to that answer, you need to go and rewind that and listen to that again because that was pretty freaking cool. Steve, I know there's a lot of success stories, but if there was one success story that you could kind of tap into that would kind of bring a lot of things into the fold, what might that be? Would you be willing to share something on that?
Yeah, my biggest success story is people. I have to say, if I reflect on anything on being here, it's watching the people. It's seeing what has happened over the past 12 years plus, and the people grow. There's people like Jamie who back then was 350 pounds and this big bald-headed guy that was there that is now this world-class athlete that is
Love you,
an
Jamie.
unbelievable
Love you, Jamie.
leader in a significant way. Across the board. There's Daryl who continues to grow and flourish and the best partner you can have across the board. There's all of the junior salespeople that started out walking in the door that are now in leadership positions across the company in a significant way. There's people like Tom Simeon, and I love to tell my Tom story. Tom had joined here 6 months afterwards. He shows up from Ohio State, the skinny little blonde-head kid, and he walks in, and we tell him he's wearing a suit that day. He walks in and we say, we got a big customer meeting in the back. We're building this area to sell the dream of what we're going to be in the future. And we need you to go across the street, go and buy some paint, come back over, and we need you to paint these walls in this area. And today he's running our whole vac business, our entire lighting business, our gear business, an entire piece. Corey Dicker came in outside, was our only person in supply chain at that point in time. As crazy as that sounds, we had one person in supply chain. And Corey was the one person that came in. Well, now he runs our One Key team, and he runs a big team that's involved with all plumbing and electrical and mechanical along the way. So you have those kind of success stories. You have Tim Albrecht, who came over from a competitor, joined to handle Stiletto, as he reminded me a couple of days ago that I basically told him in a meeting when he presented his first plant with Bill Hughes, another great leader in our company, that guess what? As he started to lay out this piece of the business, he said, this is our strategy. And I said to him, I was probably a little bit more aggressive as I was younger. I told him, go and get a dictionary and look up the word strategy. Now, I swear to God, I do not remember saying that. That's what he told me last week. And seeing him run our hand tool safety and storage business. But the list goes on. And it's watching the people who, the Shane Malls, the Scott Griswolds, the Caprivas, the Paul Richardsons, the Stevens since he's come over, all these different people across the business that have grown and flourished and taken on more responsibility and accountability for the business, and how they, for the next 20 years, will be running this business and making it flourish time and time again. And that's what I look back and say, that's success. That is success. People growing, people learning, people going to the next level. That's the real success. And you combine that with the partnerships that we had with you and the relationships that have been developed over the years, that's what real success is at the end of the day.
Well, that's an awesome answer. I appreciate you taking the time to do that, because I think to fully understand the scope of that answer, it's not just one thing, but it's a lot of things that lead to one thing. Steve, how are you different, or how do you think Milwaukee is different in their view of the business compared to the industry, compared to competitors out there?
I think number one is we're externally focused. That's first and foremost, is a focus. Like, your members have to be focused on the people they're selling product to. If we're not focused on you, and we're not focused on the user, and we don't really understand that that's going to determine our success or our failure, then we can't continue to grow. We can't continue to win. The day that we believe that the most important piece is what happens in these four walls or multiple buildings of walls at Milwaukee Tool is a day that we're going to fall apart. And that's a big piece.
Well, with that said, what is the long-term vision? What is your long-term vision for Milwaukee?
Yeah, our vision, our team's vision, not my vision, but clearly our team's vision and the leaders throughout the company is we are a productivity and solution provider. And we are a company that will deliver disruptive innovation to help our users drive productivity and safety on a job site every single day. And that vision, similar to the Netflix kind of vision, I use that example a lot, Netflix versus Blockbuster. Blockbuster's vision was that they were going to be the best brick and mortar retailer. And that's how they were going to win. Netflix called themselves up front an entertainment company. Well, think about that for a difference. We must be the world's best provider of safety and solutions on the job site. And we must drive disruptive innovation from a technology standpoint, because we are a technology company today in every single one of our businesses. And if we do that, we thrive. As long as we're outside in, and as long as we take care of our people and build our culture.
In closing and kind of putting a bow on some of this stuff, really as much as we can, what two things can you share with our audience that you believe can truly help them moving forward?
There's a lot of opportunities for all of us to think about the future. And I'm going to go back to what we talked about up front. What do you want to be as a distributor? Not only today, but in the future. And then what are you going to test? What new opportunities are you going to test to say, will that work, and can I scale that? That's number one. Number two is, in today's environment of attracting the best talent and building the right culture for your business, are you giving that the importance that is required based on the competitive set of getting good people and providing the opportunity for people to grow and advance, take care of their families, and enhance their careers over time?
That's excellent, and I think, Steve, it's a perfect way to close it. As you're going to see, and as a part of my message to our members, I'm going to be speaking with them, and I would encourage you guys too. I know Jamie and John and the team had gotten this video that I'd shared with everybody about. I'm not going to go into the video, but it's really about just being 1% better every day. And how that can just continue to build on a foundation of everything that you have in place, personally, professionally, et cetera. And I think your message today to our audience has been exceptional. And I think the spirit of your message, as I've said, I love your passion. I love the fact that you and I have been friends for more than 2 decades. It's a privilege for me to be able to do this for our members. I thank you for being a friend of our organization, and I thank you for being a friend to me for so many years. And I thank you for your time today and for the wonderful supplier that you lead for our organization. Thanks, brother.
Well,
appreciate you.
Thank you, man. And thanks to all the members, and thanks for the partnership, and thanks for letting us earn the right to partner with each and every one of you every single day. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Take care of yourself.
All right. You too. See you soon.
Perfect. Well, hey, Rob and Steve, want to thank you guys. I mean, what great content. Steve, thanks for just opening up about your success and the success of Milwaukee. And now I'm excited to transition into our next guest, right? And we've been promoting this, and we have our friend Brandon Moss from Southwire that we're going to talk a little bit, about company culture and people and talent. And the reason we chose Brandon, and I'm sure, maybe some of you guys were at STAFTA a handful of years ago, but that was the first time I actually ever saw Brandon speak, and he got up at STAFTA and talked about some of the special programs that Southwire has, right? And really how they engage their community and what that means for their team and all these things. And I know Rob and I were blown away. And so as we put together this content, right, and we decided to see like, hey, who would be the best speakers to really provide great just intel to our members and suppliers. I mean, Brandon was the first guy on the list. Him and Steve, Dunn, me and Rob were on the same place. So, Brandon, thanks for being here with us, this morning or this afternoon now. I know this was tough. Just so you guys know, Brandon, their internet went out, but this is what a great supplier Southwire is, because nothing gets in their way of just making their customers happy. So Brandon, I mean, they've been running around like crazy to make this happen. You look great. But Brandon, I mean, for people that are tuning in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Southwire?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Hey, hello, everybody. Happy to be here, first and foremost. And as Mike mentioned, we had some internet troubles today, as probably everybody has faced over the course of the last, year or so as we're doing these things via video. But, hey, Mike, want to thank you. Want to thank Rob, all the members. I mean, coming through the year that we've come through, and then obviously making a tough decision to do this via video versus doing it live. You helped probably all, at least the manufacturer suppliers out out there in the world. It's been tough for us navigating travel and navigating this, keeping plants running, et cetera, et cetera. So just wanted to commend you guys on choosing this medium here right out of the gate. But so thank you, and excited to be here. Maybe a little bit first about Southwire before me, for those that aren't familiar with our company. Southwire is a 71-year-old now, just celebrated 71-year-old second generation family business. Still family owned, 5 shareholders, and really neat story about how Southwire came to be. I mean, it's a business that was really born out of innovation and necessity. Our founder's family actually owned a sawmill, and was really electrifying the west side of the state of Georgia. And there was a wire shortage, and it was impacting his family's business because they were making telephone poles, utility poles, and really took it upon himself. Went out and bought some used cable making equipment, and 71 years later, the business becomes a global power in wire and cable. We're the biggest in North America. Very 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 top 3 probably in the world, and it's a pretty neat story. The company really holds pretty significant position in all the markets we serve. We're big in the commercial, utility space, industrial space, and really have had, at least for the last 15 years, really an intense focus on end users. And that's really what led to the start of my business. I'm the president of our tools, components, and assembled solutions business. Simply put, around here, everything not wire and cable. And we've been on a mission here for the last 5 or 6 years to diversify our business, like many others do, and stay core to that electrical trade and provide products. Many of your members would know us for some of our temporary power, temporary lighting, electrical installation equipment. And it's become a pretty nice business for us, and a good ride. And now very happy and honored to serve as part of our executive leadership team. Like probably many of the people in this audience, I started my career here at Black & Decker. Moved into the electrical space with another great family-owned business called Lutron Electronics, and then in 2007, had the opportunity to join Southwire, and really began experience your particular markets at that time. So that's a little bit about me and about the company.
Yeah, and that's great. And I want to dive in about the company, Brandon. I want to talk about why you guys are special, right? I know us at Sphere One, obviously we get the opportunity to work with a lot of companies, right? We work with our distributors and manufacturers, and the thing that stands out about you guys is your team, and that your people stay, and they have this dynamic culture, and they're being promoted, and you don't see as much of the people jumping ship, right, with you guys. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, and I know this is what we talked about, Brandon, coming into this meeting, right, is that I know, especially for our distributors, one of the biggest obstacles they have is recruiting talent, keeping talent.
Sure.
Right. And you guys are doing that. Why? Why is Southwire special? What makes it special?
Sure. Yeah. Really, always heard about Southwire being in the electrical space, but before I joined the company. And Mike, truly, our organization. I mean, it's a purpose-driven organization. Aside from building a strong income statement, balance sheet, we come to work every day as a highly engaged workforce, and I think that everybody within our organization truly believes that there's something more. There's something more to be proud of than just what we do specific in our industry, and it's the impact that we have in the local communities that we serve. Um, we think of our business and how we operate really as mutually beneficial within the communities that we work. There's a shared value system, and simply put, we take care of the people in the communities, and in turn, they're going to help us in our endeavors to grow and remain a sustainable, profitable business. So it's a pretty neat place to work. A lot of people say, "Hey, we've got a family atmosphere," and Southwires, like to think that we really take that to the extreme, quite honestly.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, Brandon, to see with you guys being so big and you're growing. I mean, the acquisitions you've made, it's got to be hard to keep that family atmosphere. And I think we have distributors tuning in, right? And I think the things I want to dive into now, because I want to dig into what you just said. I want to dig into the meat
Sure.
of what does culture mean? Because culture doesn't just mean, oh, let's give people raises. Culture doesn't just mean, hey, it's about, their life work balance. Culture means so many different things. And I think what stands out for me, and as we talked about with Southwire especially, and you and I talked about this before, preparing for this, right? The number one reason people stay at their job isn't money. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's they want to feel like
Right.
they're part of something bigger than themselves. They want to know that their direct supervisors have their back. And I mean, you guys do so much of that. So my next question is: do you guys believe this culture you've created? Do you think it's helped you provide a competitive advantage in the market, or at least help you guys attract and retain talent?
Mike, there's no question about that, and you're exactly right. I mean, you look at really across any study, you'll see that it's culture and values number one. A lot of people don't think that way, but that
Yeah.
that is the case. And when I came into the organization in 2007, um, everybody talked about the culture, and this place is special. This place is special, and we've relied on that to attract and retain talent. And the challenge with that is culture, values, things like that. They're warm and fuzzies, right? It's hard.
Mhm.
They're qualitative. They're not quantitative. And maybe as an organization, we relied on that a lot. We thought about it a lot. We used it a lot, but we wanted to make it better, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing the things that we thought we were doing. And a few years back, Mike, we started really upon a journey around employee engagement, and that essentially was our own employees' satisfaction at work. And it was very simple for us, simple concept that we felt, thinking about the customer first, if we had satisfied, engaged customers, or I'm sorry, employees, we would then have satisfied, engaged customers. Pretty simple concept. If somebody answers the phone and they're happy, they're probably going to have a better experience, with the person on the other end, right?
Yep.
So we started this journey, and we essentially gave our employees what was a customer satisfaction survey. Essentially, we've all taken them for those manufacturer suppliers watching this. You guys probably give them. You give customer net promoter score surveys and manage that. We did that internally, and we we almost became obsessed with this, in understanding what our people wanted, what they were thinking, and it became a really big piece of our culture and organization all the way through.
Yeah. So you say the word obsessed, right? And that word gets used a lot, right? We're obsessed about the end user. We're obsessed about driving culture. Let's dig in this too a little bit. I want to make this a little hard on you, Brandon, right? Because you're part
Sure.
of this huge company, right? Just like Steve, right? Richman is part of Milwaukee.
Right.
We got some distributors with 10 employees, 20 employees, right? But these principles, I think, are relatable to them. So dig in. What do you mean? What do you mean obsessed with your employees? What does that mean?
You're right. That gets, that word does get thrown out a lot, and it does. You hear it around customers. But if you're going, you know, why would you be obsessed about customers if you're not going to be equally obsessed about your own employees, right? I mean, it just makes sense. So, I guess I want everybody to understand this place is. We operate a for-profit business. We like to make money. We like to grow market share, just like everybody else does. I just think we bring a little bit of balance in with it and around our employees and communities. And maybe to explain it a little bit, it's maybe easier just to talk about our journey a bit and what we did. And this does apply. Maybe is not in a sophisticated fashion as we did it, but anybody could do it. So we actually hired a company that we've partnered with, and they provide our employees with essentially an anonymous survey, and we do it twice a year. And that survey measures 14 drivers of engagement. In essence, happiness for an employee. Things like organizational fit, the ability to grow in the company, management support is big, communication. So we've got all these different touch points, and people grade us on those, and we can find hot spots within our organization. And so we're measured on this now. We as leaders in the organization, along with sales, safety, quality, all the things that everybody measures, we now, as a management team, have an employee engagement score. And I mean, this score impacts our incentives. It gets reported to the board. So it's really ingrained in our culture now, and part of our core metrics, which is pretty cool. And again, I mean, you brought up the small distributor. There's mechanisms out there to see how your employees are feeling about things that are essentially free. You can find them on the internet to distribute a survey if you really wanted to. But there's other easy ways to do it as well, just to have honest conversations with folks and take honest feedback.
And I think that's great. I think you bring up a great point. And at the end of the day, you're asking your team, hey guys, we value you, right? We want to survey you on what we're doing well and what we don't. That step alone is huge, because the employee's going, wow, you really want to listen to me. And to your point, I think the value, it's almost easier for a smaller company to do that, because at Southwire, I mean, I can only imagine the strategies that have to get in place to get the wheels moving, right? To basically make it to make changes or to pivot from what you learn. As a small distributor with 10 or 15 employees, man, you can make those changes a lot faster, right? And be more nimble.
You can make the changes faster. Absolutely. Collecting data even, Mike, is a difficult thing. We've got 6,000 employees that are on a manufacturing floor, and how do you administer a survey to those folks? So you're right. I mean, it's a big logistical process for us, maybe easier to execute for a small distributor.
Can you share some of the things you guys learned from doing this survey? Kind of like the aha moments that you got from it? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything in life you measure, whether it's professionally or personally, we found out that we weren't as good as we thought we were, right? We had some areas that we needed to work on. Some spots we thought we were good, we weren't. And we had some spots that we thought we were good, and we were. The other thing that we learned, quite honestly, like anything in business, it's a continuous improvement process. You fix one thing, you eliminate a bottleneck, and then it creates a new bottleneck downstream that you've got to fix. So So that was really a big aha for us. It's a continuous improvement attitude toward this employee engagement. And yeah, so I mean, I can share some areas where we were not so good, and some areas where we thought we were good, and we honestly were pretty good there. The single
Yeah.
biggest thing that we struggled with, we believe that we communicated with our employees throughout the organization. Because we had open dialogue, we believe that we had great communication with our employees. And what we found out in the first year that we did this exercise is our employees really did not understand the company's goals, our broader strategy, and that was honestly shocking for us, and it stung a little bit. So we attacked that. We did all the things that you would think that you should do to attack communication. We did quarterly town halls. We did roundtables. We did step down meetings, one on ones. We put together marketing publications to communicate our strategy. And what was cool about that, after it happened, our employees honestly wanted more. So you think about that. Communication's always pointed out as an easy spot to fix, the first thing you fix in an organization. But we thought we did it well, and maybe as a point of reflection for the folks watching this is, do your employees really understand your strategy and your goals? And
Yeah.
if you went out and asked 5 people, would they answer sort of the same, or would they give you totally different answers?
Yeah.
We found that to be the case. And what was neat, after everybody understood our broader strategy, people wanted to align to it. They wanted to understand how their specific job was rolling up to the overall strategy and how they were impacting the business. And that really led um, us down a path of strategic deployment, having folks giving, so they had specific goals and measurements that
Mhm.
rolled up to our broader strategy. So, from the highest ranks of our organization down to the shop floor, everybody knew what they were doing mattered towards a specific goal, and that
Wow.
was that was great for us. And it's been a challenge, but
Yeah.
but it's been a process of maturity, and it's been great for the organization.
And it's so funny you bring up communication because we just had our member and supplier meetings this morning, right? And we had some distributors come in, our board members.
Sure.
I mean, man, it's like that, the supplier distributor relationship. It's all successful based on communication, right? And I know, like you said,
Right.
being part of a big company is I like lots of wheels to turn with what you just described. But then distributors and members that have smaller companies, it's so easy for us to take that for granted. I mean, I look at Sphere One. There's 4 of us, right? But we have to
Right.
intentionally communicate with one another. And I think one of the biggest values for a distributor, you talk about communicating your values. You know what I mean? And hey, here's what our focus is. Here's what our goals are. The values of being a smaller company, yeah, you may not be able to be like a Southwire or Milwaukee where it's like, hey, here's 16 promotions you can have in your career and
Sure.
we can build this out for you. That's one thing. But dude, the value of being part of a smaller company is you get to really be involved in that decision making process, right? Because all
Right.
of those people
Right.
are so important and vital to the success. But are you communicating that? Are you making people aware of that? Are you having them feel part of that process? So I think that that's key, and I think it's something. And what's I mean, at the end of the day, man, what sucks is you can't do it once. It has to be like part of your
No.
fabric,
No.
right? And like we got to
It
focus on this
does.
all the time.
Yeah, and it's continuing to be transparent and make sure it's part of your operational rhythm, that you're constantly doing it. But it is an important thing, and again, we thought we were great at it, and we weren't so good. So you know, self-reflection sometimes good. Figure it out and fix it. Right.
So what were you guys good at? That's I mean, because you guys do a lot of things well. So from that survey, what came out where you're like, man, we're nailing it on this one?
Yeah, Mike. The biggie for us was, and it's how we started the conversation and why I came to Southwire and why I'm still at Southwire. It's around that organizational fit piece. The piece where people again feel like they're they're doing more than coming to work every day. You know, it's building the community, building the family atmosphere that's so big for us. And you know, that was really the single biggest thing. We knocked it out of the park there. We continue to. People understand that they're coming to work to serve the company, but also serve the communities in which we operate as well.
Yep. So I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great takeaway. So members, suppliers, right, engaging, surveying your teams, right, really bringing them in to the mix of developing your, you know, just your goals, your strategies, making them feel part of the equation, right, part of the team. But I want to transition because this is something I'm passionate about, and I mean, this is what blows me away about you guys. And before I give it over to you, it's something that so we have a young executive group with our distributors, right? And it's something I talk to these guys about. It's about giving back. And it's about the power of your company engaging with your community, right? And what that means. Not just what it means for the people you're helping in your community, but what that means for your team. And we talk about being part of something bigger than ourselves. And dude, what you presented at STAFTA blew my mind because it's just so creative and so outside the box. But can you talk to Southwire and how you guys give back and how, you know, those programs affect the culture within your team?
Oh, absolutely. Would love to. And look, that is what drives that engagement and what drives our scores in that organizational fit category. And so absolutely. The program you're talking about from the STAFTA conference is 12 for Life. That program still exists today. For those that weren't there and don't know what we're talking about, you know, we essentially have in a couple areas where we operate have built a joint manufacturing and school. Essentially, folks, kids, high school age kids, come to school at our facility, and they're going to school for a half day and essentially working in a manufacturing environment for the other half day. So that still exists. It's doing fantastic. Little challenging, obviously, during COVID, being connected to a school system, but we're managing through that, right? And hopefully we'll be back on track here shortly. But really, I mean, there's two programs maybe to talk about. And the beautiful thing about this, and like the 12 for Life program, although we hold these programs near and dear to our hearts at Southwire, we encourage plagiarism. I mean, we would love anybody out there to copy any of these programs because we feel it does make a positive impact on the community. So, yeah, two things maybe to talk about, Mike, that I think anybody can do, large, small. We've got two programs. The first is called the Power Fund. And the Power Fund is really an employee program. It's employee activated. And essentially what it does is it allows us to provide relief, short-term relief to our employee base in the event of some sort of tragedy. So, I mean, you think about natural disasters, illness, things like that. And the program is really neat. It actually works sort of two ways. So we have the opportunity as employees at Southwire to, via payroll deduction, to contribute to this fund, you know, every 2 weeks, essentially, or you can do so in a one-time fashion. And there are two ways, really, the program's activated. There are catastrophic grants for particular situations, our employees are, or immediate family, and there's matching grants. So if an employee experiences a life event, and unfortunately, 14 years here, 7,000 employees, there's some heartbreaking scenarios, right? There just is. It's part of life. But if a person were to incur something like this, the company will provide a $10,000 catastrophic grant. And what it allows folks to do is essentially meet their short-term needs. If they had a house fire, before the insurance check comes, what do? You got to put clothes on your kids. You got to buy food. So it's used in those scenarios. And the really neat thing is Southwire contributes dollar for dollar. So if somebody contributes $10 a month, Southwire matches that $10 a month. And, it remains into a fund and is used when we need it. And it happens more than you think. The other way that this works is the matching grant scenario. So we have basically what is a pass the hat sort of scenario. Something comes up, it happens. We would collect, either out of pocket or you can do payroll deduction. And for these specific instances that employees bring up where they would like to help somebody, the company matches those 2 to 1. So wow. It's pretty significant. So, it's a wonderful thing where if something happens in life, if something happens to one of our employees, that Southwire and that the rest of the employee base essentially are going to have your back to take care of you and meet your short-term needs. And man, talk about building a sense of family within an organization. That certainly does it.
Yeah. And I think, and Brandon, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think all the members and suppliers that are tuning in, right? You hear the words a lot, corporate responsibility, right? And what that means is supporting your community. And I'm going to speak specifically to distributors, okay? Because that's who we hear the most heartburn from in regards to this, right? Warehouse, whatever it is, maybe it's their warehouse workers and things, and an Amazon sets up right in their neighborhood and poaches, right, all their customers because they can pay them, or all their employees because they can pay them $10 more an hour, And the thing we talked about before, the number one reason people stay at a company isn't because of money, right? And it's because of being part of something bigger than themselves, like you guys do. And I think from the distributor standpoint, right, what I love about Southwire is their creativity, right? The 12 to Life program. That's like philanthropy on steroids, right? But then how you engage your employees and, hey, whatever you support, we're going to support, and we're going to get your back, and we're going to support you as well. I cannot overestimate the importance of this, of how this, I believe, needs to be the fabric of everybody's company, whether you have 5 employees or whether you have 1,000 employees, right? And what it does for the culture amongst your team, right? Of feeling part of, like, man, hey, maybe we're raising money to cure cancer. Maybe it's the Boys and Girls Club in our local neighborhood. Maybe it's for John, who just had a heart transplant and needs help paying his bills. But then how you can engage your customers within that. You know what I mean? And say, hey, here's what we're doing, customers. Come do this with us. It creates something that's bigger than just dollars and cents. But at the end of the day, when you talk to big business owners and people, this drives the success of your company. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. And it keeps folks here, it keeps them engaged. And the other thing is don't forget about, programs, outward programs, things you do in the community. Southwire has another program called Project Gift, and that focuses really specifically on the communities, different charitable organizations, local food banks, focuses on natural disasters, and it also gives our employees the ability to come together and do an activity outside of work. It's about, improving the communities around us, using people's time and talents versus writing a check. It's easy to write a check. It's a lot harder to be active in the community. And I think that ultimately, what you're talking about, it builds a competitive advantage for you to retain top talent. There's no question about it. We've got a lot of talented individuals at Southwire. I know that they've got opportunities to do other things, but they choose to stay here, and that's a big part of it. So, again, it's the idea of being mutually beneficial, right? We're doing good, but it also is helping us in the same regard because we are able to retain talent because of it.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I mean, the things we covered today, Brandon. I think talking about the culture and kind of some of the specific things you guys have done to engage your teams, right, and to evolve and strategize and create this bigger than life type of culture. What I want to have you close us out, and I mean, dude, at the end of the day,
Sure.
you're a special guy, right? That's why we're like, man, Brandon, you just get it, and we've seen your success. I mean, and where we see that the most, dude, is when we. Sorry, I get excited. I say dude a lot, but is when we talk to your team members, right? We're talking to the Steve Whites and,
Sure.
and his team, and they talk about you, right? So I'd like to just give you the floor to kind of wrap up, right? Steve and Rob talked earlier about culture and dynamics and things, and so did we. But you kind of sitting in your shoes, Brandon Moss, right? What you've done in your career, what's important to you? What do you want to leave our members and suppliers that are tuning in that can kind of encourage them to take these steps, right? To think deeper and bigger about culture.
Sure. Sure. Maybe before I do that, I could use your lead in when I come home at night from work and things like that, because the folks in my house maybe don't think the same way about me as you do. I'm not that great. I'm low on the org chart in my house, as most people probably understand. Me and the dog, neck and neck, right there. But
Funny.
no, look, we're passionate about this stuff at Southwire, and I think we're facing the same thing that everybody else is facing. That's on in this meeting today, is there is an extreme shortage, a high level of competition for talent out there, and we've got an opportunity here over the course of the next couple years, hopefully a couple years, where we've got some pretty good industry dynamics. I love this industry. We get to come to work every day and we build stuff. I mean, we get to see what we're building. We're truly the backbone of the country, and we're coming out of this COVID environment where you hear a lot about 25, 30, 40%, whatever the number is. It's different in a lot of reports of folks that are going to be job hopping. They're gonna come back and want to do something else. They're looking for maybe a more flexible work environment. I think we've all learned a lot here the last year on how dynamics, in an office have changed, maybe how folks are operating. And I think probably more now than ever, as an organization, we've got to be extremely creative. We've got to be very flexible, because, I want to see Southwire retain talent. I want to see us do well, but I want to see everybody else in the industry doing well. I don't want people running off to other industries or service jobs, maybe because this life isn't as glamorous or as flexible as maybe other industries are. So, that's the biggest thing. Let's make sure that we're taking care of each other, taking care of this industry, and I think we've got to do that maybe by getting a little bit creative and maybe being more flexible than we've ever been before.
Man, I think that's awesome, and I think you nailed it. And obviously, with what we've all experienced over the last year, that's what it's all about, right? That's how we're gonna grow and thrive. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. Thank you for taking time to do this. I know it's been crazy getting Brandon live on this afternoon with internet outages, but I mean, just a great message, man. And we appreciate you so much and your investment in us and to our members and our suppliers that are on. So thank you so much, Brandon.
No, Mike, thanks to you. Thanks to Rob. Really appreciate being here. Really appreciate, all the support from the members. It's been a great ride for Southwire. We're sort of new to this world, right? We're only 5 to 6 years in, and I appreciate, the openness of all the members and the engagement, and man, we look forward to continuing to partner and get to know all of you better, and get to work with Mike, with you guys even more closely. So thank you, and hopefully we will all see each other in person very soon, and we won't have to do this again anymore.
Wow. Brandon, Steve, thank you both so much. Thank you for your commitment to Sphere One. I mean, not just being great preferred suppliers for our members, but just giving us time to kind of share the behind the scenes with you and how you lead and how your companies drive culture. That was just so insightful, and we can't thank you enough just for your continued, just your partnership and your true investment within Sphere One. Members and suppliers, thank you guys again for jumping on with us this afternoon. This is a wrap for day 2 of our virtual annual conference. We are kicking in again tomorrow. So members, remember, we need you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific to tune into our Supplier of the Year presentation. Invite your whole team. It's going to be great. Should be just about an hour long. And then tomorrow night's tonight. Tomorrow night, we are handing out hardware, guys, and we are giving out our awards at 4 o'clock Pacific sharp. So make sure you get home, put on some fancy clothes if you want, wear your sweats, but make sure you have a cocktail and you can celebrate and party with us as we recognize all the great achievers of Sphere One from 2020. So guys, thanks again for being here with us. Thanks for making day 1 just a phenomenal success, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.